let's look at composition of functions. So let's take this function f of x equals x squared, which is in purple. And we'll take a second function g of x equals 2x, which is in black. Now let's form these two compositions. We'll do this one first. So the way this is read is we're going to look at the f of g of x. So what we're going to do is the g of x first, and then we're going to do the f. So this can also be read as f after g of x. So let's go and we'll pick a point and we'll work through this. So let's say x is the point 1. So here's a point 1. So whenever I go from 1 to the g of x, it's going to be 2 times 1, which is equal to 2. So we go along 1 and we get to the point 2. We then put the value of 2 into the function f of x. So if I put 2 in here, it'll be 2 squared will give us 4. So let's check and see that graphically. So we go to the point 2 and it gives us the point 4. So we can say that f of g of 1 is going to equal a value of 4. So this new function here, f of g at 1, will go along 1 and it will go up 4. So it will be this point here. So that will be 1 point on a new function f of g of x. So let's look at the entire function f of g of x. So in red here is a composed function. So let's just talk through those values again. We go to a point 1, we go up to our g of x, which is in black, which gives us a value of 2. We go along to a point 2, we then go up to our function f of x, and it will give us a value of 4. So therefore our composed function is along 1 and up 4. So that's a point on the function f of g of x. So what is this new function f of g of x? Well, we take the g of x, which is the 2x, and we put it into the f of x. So everywhere you see an x in this function here, you replace it with 2x. So that will become 2x all squared, which would be 4x squared. So this f of g of x will equal 4x squared. So let's just check and see if that is the case. We could say that a new function, let's call it m of x equals 4x squared. And you can see that the new function here, which is in blue, sits on the top of this function f of g of x. So this is correct. The new function is 4x squared. So let's go ahead and we'll look at the g of f of x. So now we're going to have this new function here, g of f of x. So what this says is we do f of x first, and then we do g of x. So let's go ahead and we'll put some values in for this. Let's say x is equal to 1. So therefore we're going to do the f of x first, so that's 1 times 1 is 1. We then put that into the g of x. So we come along 1 and g of x will give us the black one, which will give us a value of 2. So the g of f of x at point 1 will give us a value 2. So we know that this new function g of f of x will go through this point 1, 2. So let's look at another point. Let's say the point x is equal to 2. Then we can see here that our f of x will go through the purple one here, which will give us a value of 4. We then go to a value of 4 and we go through the black one. So the black line here will give us a value of 8. So that means that the g of f of 2 will give us a value of 8. So that means that another point on this new function g of x will be 2, 8, which is this point here. So let's go ahead and we'll draw that in, we'll see what it looks like. And you can see it in green here. This is the new function g of f of x, and you can see it goes through the point 2, 8, just as we worked out. So how do we work out this function g of f of x? Well, we see here we do f of x first, and then we put it into the g of x. So everywhere you see an x in here, you're going to put in an x squared. So we're going to have 2x squared. So the g of f of x is going to equal 2x squared. So let's just check and see if that is the case. We'll put in a new function which we'll call m of x, and we'll say m of x equals 2x squared. And you can see the new function here, which I'll put in a different colour, is equal to the original function. So our g of f of x is equal to 2x squared. So you can see that is indeed equal to it. So we can compose as many of these functions as we want. A g of f of h of I of j of k of l of m of x. So I suggest you open this up and try composing a few functions of your own.